Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Keep Productive YouTube channel. Today, I am joined by the CEO of Coda, Shishir Motra. How are you, Shishir? You all right?
I'm doing great.
Good. And got a lovely billboard behind you, so rocking
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
and enough of the sheet. Yes,
yeah.
so people seem to really like it. So it's a lot of fun. So
It's a good campaign. It's a really good campaign, and Coda's been pretty busy, right? Rachel reminded me that the last time I spoke to you was in August last year, so
ah,
like that's bang out of order that
yeah,
I'm not that we've not had a
the
chat. So
world is a completely different place since last August.
yeah, it is. Yeah, I
Yeah,
bet. So maybe to start, has it been pretty busy with Coda in terms of like people, remote workers trying to get on?
yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, this is one of those tools where as teams change and try to adapt to distributed patterns, code is sort of a perfect tool for that, and so
Yeah.
certainly been helpful from that perspective. And we were already growing pretty fast, so it's sometimes hard to tell the difference, but the lot of positive feedback in this period.
Oh yeah, I bet. And it's changed a lot since I last spoke with you. But I've been keeping an eye on stuff. But maybe we'll start with like the because you had a Series C funding. Maybe you want to talk about like what does that allow you to do and like how has it changed everything?
Yeah, I mean, it's worth mentioning that in a um, world under all sorts of weird situations and so on. To be thankful that we happen to be in a market that's exploding and doing really well, and so we're able to get a great financing done. Maybe for your viewers, we raised about $80 million in our Series C. It was led by a guy named Mamoon Hamid, who I really was excited about because he was my top choice for investing. I consider him to be one of the best B2B SaaS investors that there is. He led the rounds in Slack and Box and Figma and Yammer and all these great companies. And whenever he invests in something, I always try to co-invest with him. So I was pretty excited to pull him in. Um, and yeah, he got excited. The company's made a lot of progress. We shipped our Coda 1.0
Mm.
last February, so we've been in market for about 18 months now, and the product kind of took off like a rocket ship. And we have over 25,000 teams now using Coda, including
Oh
people
wow.
at Uber and Figma and Spotify and Masterclass and Square and so on. And this year has been really strong. I think when we did the financing, we had already doubled revenue through the year, and so all of that has been going quite well. In terms of what it allows us to do, I think all of these financings are great expansion events for companies and
Mm.
allows you to look at different opportunities you want to go after. For us, I set three themes. Number one is back to the foundation. We've been building super quickly. I think one of the things our users often talk about is the pace at which we're able to ship new things. But I wanted the team to focus in on some of the basics, so a lot of the
Mm.
performance, scalability, just trying to keep up with, as products grow, whatever you do, our makers and users push us one step further. And so we're
Yeah.
ready for another round of that. So I've got a big portion of the team working there. A second big priority is honing the simple cases. So, people can do things in Coda that are really complicated, and they can build really powerful, as we say, docs as powerful as apps. But most of our users actually start with much more modest goals, and they do the simple things. They're taking notes in meetings, running the company wiki, writing project briefs, and so there's a whole portion of the team focused on really honing
Yeah.
and those simple cases. And the third one, and I think we'll end up talking more about this, is
Mm.
one of my favorite parts of Coda, and I know one of yours, is that what we deliver to the world isn't just a product; it's a whole ecosystem around us. And we shipped this thing we call the gallery that allows you to
Mm.
publish docs into this sort of central place. And it's been really interesting watching what people are doing with that. And we have a whole bunch of new ideas to expand the ecosystem even further. So that's sort of a third priority we've been
Yeah.
working on. So.
That's pretty exciting. And before we go into more of the sort of like basics of Coda, because it's changed a bit, maybe like I'm curious, like how big's the team now? How's it? Is it being? It's growing, right, at the moment?
Yeah, we have about 80 people on the team now. I think
Oh,
one
okay.
fun stat is about 10% of the company has, I think almost 15 now, has
Hmm.
physically moved since the pandemic started.
Oh
So
yeah.
people are all over the place,
Oh
which
my
is kind of
crikey, yeah.
fun. With this financing, obviously lots of work to be done.
Hmm.
Goal is to roughly double the team in about a 12-month period. So there's a
Wow.
if any of your viewers are interested, and we're hiring in just about every role,
Yeah.
please
Job
feel free to
alert.
reach out. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, we're about 80 people now, spread all over the world. Pretty distributed first company, and
Yeah.
so that's sort of built into our DNA. It's been
Brilliant.
a lot of fun.
Exciting. Maybe you can give us like a rejig of our memories of the basic building blocks of Coda, if that's all right.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
okay, so
We're in.
yeah, I think you mentioned that it would be fun to walk through a kind of simple tour just to get started before we talk about new things. And you know, maybe before I start this, I'd say when you ask our users to describe Coda, one of the interesting things is people will give three very different answers, and some people will describe it as a new type of doc, some people will describe it as a new type of table, and some people will describe it as a new type of app. Um, I like to think of these almost like levels in a game, like that as people progress through Coda, their language changes. And so I've adopted that nomenclature in how I describe Coda to new people as well. So early on, users will describe Coda as a new type of doc. And what they'll see is it's a blinking cursor on a blank screen. I like to say full of opportunity. And it's all the expectations of a modern document. A lot of these people will say it's like a super Google Doc. And it's got a real-time collaborative editor, and you can handle emojis and markdown and disconnected mode, and all the commenting stuff works the way you would expect. Generally, for these people, the next thing they discover about Coda is that it's a more organized, all in one place. And they generally start with fairly simple primitives. These are um, these are called pages. You could think about them like tabs in a spreadsheet, but turned sideways. It's very popular. Lots of things we do to just make things look good, make these big cover images, make these icons, so on. This feature here is incredibly popular. This is, we call it collapsing. It's super easy to set up, so you can take anything and you can turn a document basically into a little outliner. And so at sort of stage one of understanding Coda, people use it really as a document, and they're taking notes in it, and they're running their one-on-ones or meetings or project briefs or so on, all happen this way. Generally, the second step for Coda is people discover tables and say, oh, it's an all-in-one doc, what can I put in? And the first thing they discover is tables. And tables for us are look and feel a lot like a spreadsheet, but they're organized like a database. And what I mean by that is a couple things. First off, it means that columns have names instead of letters. So there's no A1, B2, C3. And those columns can have what we call formats, or you can think of them as types. So, you know, this one contains people, and you can, as you add them, it'll mention them, and you can bring them into your conversation. You can have columns that look up from other tables, so you can build relational things. You can put these controls in columns. You can do things like sliders. But the other reason it feels like a database is that it's very easy to create different views for every person. And so one group might just care about the mapping task. One group might want to look at it as a Gantt chart. One group might want to look at it as a pie chart. And it's all connected together. We like to say tables that talk to each other. And so as I move this slider around, you'll see it move everything. And it doesn't matter where I do it from. I can do it from here and see the same thing, or do it from here and see the same thing happen. And so this is really powerful. It gives a table that looks and feels a lot like a spreadsheet, but acts a lot more like a database. So this is sort of step two. And then step three is people start to discover, and they get deeper and deeper into Coda, they start to discover, oh, I can do things that feel a lot like app building. And generally the first thing people discover is you can hit equals anywhere, and you can write a formula, and you can do things like do math, and basically everything you can do in a spreadsheet, you can do with this formula language. And it's been expanded to do lots of things that are well beyond what you could normally do in a spreadsheet as well. After that, people discover buttons and controls. And so buttons and controls, these are very popular. Actually, I should have said this earlier. Everything I'm showing is available here in this Explore menu. So you can think about this as sort of your pick list, your palette of all the things you want to pull in. And so these are things that you would normally find in an application builder. And so you can build these selectors, you can build a button that, for example, this one is set up so that when I hit it, I pick which team I want to add a task for, and I hit this button and it's going to add a task for that team. It's a very simple example. The third thing they'll discover here is automations. Automations are like, you can almost think about them like Zapier in your doc. So you write these rules and you say, when this happens, if this is true, then do this. And then generally the icing on the cake for people is packs. So packs, we have a few dozen of these now. These allow you to connect Coda to your different systems, email, calendar, Shopify, Jira is very popular, GitHub is very popular. And these can do all sorts of things. You can pull in information. You can actually take action out in the real world and say things like send an email to someone or send a Slack message or pull in a map of a neighborhood or so on. So these are a few different ways that people look at Coda. And I think just to pull back a second, the interesting thing is, like I said, it's almost like levels in a game. So many people will use this just as a doc, and then they'll gradually start using us as a new type of table. And then eventually they'll discover these powerful features and start building things that really feel like apps and rebuild their CRM systems and project management systems and so on. So that's, quick recap of what Coda is about.
Yeah, I like how you do sort of go through those steps, don't you, as you sort of learn more about it. And one of the features you released, Will, a couple of months ago now, probably a few more than that, was the published document ability. How's that gone so far? And I guess because obviously you've got the templates area already, that's pretty extensive, pretty lovely. How are people taking the published documents feature out there?
Yeah, it's great, and I think we launched it in February or March, and it's done great. I mean, thousands of documents published, millions of views, all of those things are going well. Yeah, so Coda Publishing. Let me describe a little bit how it works. So first, I'll just show you the quick mechanic. So when you open a Coda doc, you can hit share, and you'll get a new tab that says publish, and so now you can publish documents. This basically creates a website. So you get this vanity URL. You can tell us how interactive you want it to be, and you can tell us whether or not you want Google to be able to find it. You mentioned earlier the template gallery. So as part of this launch, what we actually did was we replaced the template gallery with the doc gallery. And so now when you publish, these are all docs that people are publishing. Across all sorts of different things. Some of them feel like templates. Some of them feel a little bit different. So I was going to give you a couple examples. I'll start with this one. It's one of my favorites. This is from Claire Hughes Johnson. She's the COO of Stripe, and it was actually the very first doc to be published, which I think is a good note. And what she had this Google Doc for how to run effective offsites. And apparently very popular and within Stripe. And so she took it and she pulled it into Coda. There's actually a little video down here of her and I doing it together before we had to be separated by 6 feet. And so at sort of high level, this doc it's kind of like a blog post, right? It's a nice looking formatted page. And then what she did is she pulled in all the other parts of running an offsite into this document. So this is her little checklist area. She's got a list of icebreakers that you can do in an offsite, and it's all interactive. So you come in here and say, I only have 20 minutes. Which icebreaker can I do? She took all the things you would generate for the day of the offsite. Having a page for every session. This one is the agenda, and so I can come in and adjust the agenda, and all the numbers will change. You can also do things like this was one that she was really excited about. Is that she starts her offsites with a check-in. So you go around the room and say, how's everybody feeling? And in Coda, the way she did this is she built out this table where you add your sentiment. You say, how are you feeling? You say, I'm feeling great. Talking to Francesco today. And then you can check this box and you can see what everybody thinks. And, I like this doc for a few different reasons. First off, it's a really good Coda use case. When I say an all-in-one doc, this would normally have been like 20 different documents, presentations, so on, and it's all now in one thing. Secondly, as an example of publishing, I think it's really good because it's, many users who read this and see this, they think it's like a blog post. And then they start to understand what the Coda piece of it is as they explore the document further, and then they hit copy and they can use it like a template. And the other reason I like it is, sometimes we make this statement, anyone can make a doc as powerful as an app, and people picture like really, really big applications. But actually, in this case, what this little widget is really drives the power of this experience. And if you think about what it's doing, it's not only saving like an hour of her offsite, it's also removing all the groupthink. Like you would go around the room and say, "What does everybody think?" And by the time you got to the third person, they would all be agreeing with each other. So I like this example a lot. I had a couple others pulled to show you. Let me show you this one. I think your
Oh
audience
yeah.
will really like this. So this
Mm.
is one from Des Tran. Do you know Des, the founder of Intercom?
Name rings a bell,
Yeah,
but
Irish. So on your side of the
oh
pond.
really? Oh, crikey.
Um, and so this one actually started with a tweet, which Twitter is loading slow there. There we go.
Oh yeah.
So it actually doesn't have a lot to do with Intercom, but this tweet started with this idea, thinking about productivity and tools. Your email is what others think you should work on. Your to-do list is what you think you should work on. And your calendar is what you actually work on. How much do they overlap in your world? So it's kind of fun, insightful tweet. Had all these little Venn diagrams to describe the overlaps, and people seem to like it. 1,500 people have liked it, and over 400 people have retweeted it. And what he did was he turned this into a published doc. And so
Mm.
as he adapted it, the way this works is you set up your to-do list. So this is it's a very simple one here. Then you sync in your email. So we have these Coda packs I was describing earlier. So you can connect with all these systems. And one of the things we launched last year, I think, is the ability to sort of synchronize in data. And so in this case, he syncs in his starred Gmail messages. And then he has a third area where it syncs in your calendar. And
Mm.
so that's it. These are the 3 steps of pre-work. And then you run your system. And basically every week you're supposed to go kind of in linear order here through that set of steps. So you take your inbox and you either
Oh
add
yeah.
each thing to your to-do list or you link it to something already on your to-do list.
Mm.
Then you rearrange your calendar to match. So you take everything on your to-do list and you make sure it has a slot on your calendar. Now, as you run your week, you have this to-do list and everything has a 2 extra columns. When am I going to work on this and where did it come from? And then finally, at the end of the week, you get this reflection. And this is a chart that shows you what portion of your time was spent on things that had linked to-dos versus didn't. And there's a little
Mm.
stat here for how much time it was. So
That's
again, I like
neat.
this document for a bunch of reasons. It's
Yeah.
really powerful, interesting use case. It's been transformative to me. I've now been running my own system like this for a year. And every week I get this little report. This week I'm at 44%
All
alignment.
right.
44% of my time is spent on things that were on my list at the beginning of the week. By the way,
Mm.
for me, if I hit 50%, that's really good. And it took me a while
Yeah.
to come to
All
terms with the
right.
idea that
Yeah.
50% is my high water mark. The other reason I really like this example is I like to call it a tweet compiled into software. I mean, this thing really started as I'm sure you've done this. You go on Twitter and you see this like insightful person. He says this pithy thing, and you're like, oh, that's a good idea, and then you like don't do anything about it. And in this
Yeah.
case, there's like an actionable version of his tweet. So this is a kind of second example of a published doc. I was going to show you just one more.
It's really cool.
That
Yeah, I like that. I think I'll maybe do a video on that specifically. I think it looks quite cool. Just gonna make
Yeah,
a note.
I was going to suggest if you want, I'm about to publish. I published one that's very popular called Shashir's To-Do List or Shashir's To-Do List Philosophy, and I'm
Oh
about
yeah.
to publish a To-Do 2.0, which actually goes into my version of Des's technique.
Yeah.
So if you
All
want, I'm
right.
happy to get back on and walk you through that in a different
Yeah, that
time.
could be cool. Yeah. Might. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe do that.
yeah, it'll be fun. The third one I was going to show you, this is a really fun one. This is from Sal Khan. It's called Schoolhouse.world.
Hmm.
And anybody can find it if you go to schoolhouse.world. So Sal Khan's the founder of Khan Academy. And when he started Khan Academy, he's actually an old friend of mine. We went to school together. And
Oh.
he also wrote a book called One World Schoolhouse. And when he did, he bought this domain called schoolhouse.world. And when the pandemic started, it happened right about the time that we launched publishing. And so he emailed me and he said, hey, that looks like a really hot feature. I've been debating doing this thing for a while. That's kind of a marketplace to match make tutors and students. Could
Hmm.
I do that in Coda? And so he ended up building this in a weekend. And it's basically a place where anybody can come in and you can sort of sign up for tutoring. and you end up with a set of tutors and there's a calendar, and it's like it's really awesome what it does, but it's a full-on web application. In this case, this is back end, front end, sort of
Yeah.
everything is in Coda.
Yeah.
And I also like it because it's a really timely and relevant use case. But
Yeah.
those are three like very different examples of the offsite toolkit that's kind of like a blog post, and then Des's example that's like an app or like a template. I think is better than any to-do list manager I've found
Yeah.
in in the App Store and so on. And it's awesome. It really feels like an end-to-end application. So those are
Yeah.
three kind of fun examples.
And it's quite close to the actual framework of a productivity system, because
Yes,
sometimes our apps are built around an app versus not the framework. Yeah,
right.
that's pretty neat. Yeah, I really like the ability to just steal bits and actually start actioning them. So that's pretty cool.
Yes.
And obviously, lots happening, lots new team members joining. What's next for Coda in terms of maybe a window into next 6 months to a year?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a few of the things earlier. We're working on our fundamentals, the simple cases, and expanding the ecosystem. I think actually, if I had to pick a theme that has been very unifying, is
Mm,
maybe an obvious one is as the world has shifted to be distributed, there's a set of new patterns that have emerged.
mm.
I wrote this doc. I'll project it real fast.
There we go.
That is it's Shashir's Guide to Distributed Teams. And maybe as context, Coda is pretty distributed, but YouTube was also very distributed. That's what before starting Coda, I used to run the YouTube team at Google.
Mm,
And so I've been running some form of distributed team for over a decade. And this talks through a few of the different patterns of distributed teams. One of the main ones is this sentence here, is that I think that teams that lean into the pros of being distributed find it makes them a better company in general, even when they're in the same location. And so the doc's pretty interesting, and you can link it in your notes and so on. But there's sort of 5 different lessons. I think the one that's most interesting is the second one. Is about meetings, and I spent a lot of time thinking about effective meetings. And I
mm,
think meetings are often when people describe challenges and processes and so on, a lot of it actually boils down to the meeting. It's the how do I run an effective sales team is a lot of it's about how you run a great forecast meeting, and how do I become a great manager. A lot of it's how I run a great one-on-one and so on. So we spent a lot of time
mm.
thinking about this, and this I've found this sentence to be really helpful. Design your meetings like you design your apps. And so we've been putting a lot of work into tools that help this. And so I'll give a quick example. For Coda meetings, one of the things that is very common in a Coda meeting is this thing we call a dory. And this is the concept is very simple. It's like we'll be in a meeting and we'll drop in a it's like a ranked Q&A, and you can come in here and say, should we launch another pack? And people can go and upvote and downvote these different things. It's
Mm.
named after a tool we created at Google. It was named after the fish who asked all the questions in Finding Nemo. And at Google we used to do these for like big, huge meetings. It's like Larry and Sergey had this really famous meeting on Fridays called TGIF, and 10,000 people would show up, and so like this was the only way to do it. But at Coda, we'll do this even when there's only like 3 or 4 people in a meeting, which I think is really interesting, and it does a few different things. When I say design your meetings like you design your apps, there's a set of incentives that you're creating. One is it equalizes the audience. So it means that anybody can ask a question. It's not like only the most important person asks a question. You discuss what matters. So you leave the meeting and you feel like, hey, we didn't get through everything, but we got through everything with at least 3 upvotes. And that makes us
Yeah.
feel pretty good. Turns out questions are way better. So you get better form questions if people write them down first. But if you were to sort of work backwards and say, wouldn't you prefer meetings where for a little bit more equal, where we discuss what actually matters and where the questions were actually quite good, and you design your tools around it, that can be really impactful. So this is one example. This is actually shipped as a in-doc template, so you can just hit /upvote and you can find it. But
Mm.
I've found that these set of building blocks have been really useful to lots of different teams. And as an example, this is a really popular one from Yuki's the chief product officer at Figma. Figma runs most of their product process on Coda, and he shipped this really interesting example of what they do. And I'll let people read the rest of it, but there's one part of it that I think is really awesome. He took their launch cow meeting, which is generally a kind of a boring meeting. Right? You come in, hey, what are we launching this week? And he created this view of it, and it has these little hearts here. And what happens when you click these, so you can click this to raise your hand, ask a question about a launch, or you can click this to say, I like it. And this used to be a boring meeting. Everybody just sort of paid attention to their own piece of it. And now, and the rule actually, anybody can raise their hand once, but you can heart it as many times as you want. And all of a sudden, this meeting became positive energy. And you know, how do you, like, if you think about it, design your meetings like you design your apps? He was able to recreate this forum in a different way. So the thing we're working on there's a bunch of little pieces of these tools that make it work. But one of the ones I'm most excited about is a thing we call custom templates. And so the idea, this will ship sometime soon, is the ability to sort of customize and build out your own little versions of these things that you can just, you know, you're a slash command away from being able to insert them anywhere into your documents. So that's kind of the inspiration for the idea, but the way it'll end up shipping to people is as a customizable building block, so you can extend Coda in your own way. So I thought that
that's
was
really cool.
one example.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, like for people that just want to make a few modifications for their own team, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I think about it is every team has its, I call them rituals, and every team has a set of things that really make them them. And if you can take those things and really make them very concrete, then people are much more likely to follow them. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's really exciting. Obviously, all the new features, well, the ones that you went through are available now. So we'll make a link in the description. So thanks, Shashir, for coming on. Maybe I'll include some of those articles that you mentioned in the link.
Yes, sure. We'll send you a set of links. Yeah.
Yeah. And people can go and read them because they're blog posts and also Coda.
Right.
So perfect.
That's right.
Brilliant. Thank you. And obviously people know where to go, coda.io. So thank you very much, Shashir, for your time.
Thanks, Francesco. It's great fun.